Hello and welcome on my presentation on how wealth has impacted or not Gatsby's happiness. But first, I'm going to do a quick presentation on the First World War and what led to the 1920s, the Jazz Age. So, the First World War was a horrible event that lasted from July 28, 1914 until November 11, 1918, with the gunfights taking place all over Europe. The Allies, consisting of countries like France, Great Britain, and Russia, faced the Triple Alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. The trigger point of this war was the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, a member of the royal family in Austria-Hungary, by a Serbian nationalist by the name of Gavrilo Princip. This escalated into a major conflict between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. The conflict took major proportions when Russia decided to side with Serbia in its fight against Austria-Hungary. But the First World War, as we know it today, was first started by Germany when it declared war on Russia because it didn't want to demobilize its troops sent to Austria-Hungary. As allies, France and Great Britain decided to support Russia, and Italy did the same, but with Germany and Austria-Hungary, and this started the World War. As a result of a 4-year battle, there were more than 40 million citizens and fighters that were killed in total. To end the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919, to officially put an end to the war and begin to plan the afterlife after the war. Here is a quick video on the life in the 1920s, the Jazz Age.
For all, the American family began to change as it never had before. During World War I, many women had gone to work, taking factory jobs that were ordinarily held by men. Once the war was over, the men went back to work, but many women desired to keep working as well. Several factors occurred in the early 1920s that allowed this to happen. An industrialized economy led to new working opportunities for women. An increased need for record keeping in plants and factories created positions for clerical workers, filing clerks, typists, and secretaries. Some women even broke with traditional gender roles and took jobs on the factory floor. A plethora of time and labor-saving devices, such as washing machines, electric irons, vacuum cleaners, and refrigerators gave housewives enough additional free time that having a job became a real possibility. Other items such as canned goods, store-bought sliced bread, and factory-made clothing only increased this available free time even more. These were just some of the changes that helped over 10 million women become part of the workforce by 1930. Women holding jobs was just the beginning of changes taking place in the American home. Birth rates were dropping as well. This meant that American families were getting smaller. In 1916,
Well, as we can see, there were huge changes that took place after the war, especially women's rights in society. The 1920s, also called the Jazz Age, due to the growing popularity of jazz music in American culture, also saw the birth of the American dream, characterized by a prosperous family with kids and appliances such as the refrigerator and the freezer. For the Americans during this time, this was the definition of happiness, having a rich family and having a happy family with kids and dogs and everything. So, in The Great Gatsby, Jay Gatsby, all through the novel, worked his way up the economical and social ladder to attain this part of the American dream, which was being prosperous. So, in his case, his wealth was attained with questionable measures, with contraband and match fixing being implied throughout the novel. With Gatsby being as rich as he is, you would believe that he would be happy as he is, right? You would believe that he has achieved this happiness, right? Well, you would be wrong. In fact, Gatsby doesn't really care about his wealth. His riches is not a source of happiness in itself. It's more of a tool to attain his source of happiness, which was being back with Daisy. Jay and Daisy were lovers before Gatsby went to the army. During his stay overseas, Tom Buchanan got in a mix. In Daisy's eyes, he could offer her what Jay Gatsby couldn't, which was financial stability and the assurance that she could keep living the lavish life that she was so accustomed to. To summarize Daisy's dilemma, we can use the metaphor that Daisy loved Gatsby with her heart, but loved Gatsby with her brain. This means that Daisy loved Gatsby for what he really was, but loved Tom for what he is and what he represents to society. Gatsby at the time was a young, honest man with values, but didn't really have the economical means to be in a full relationship with Daisy. But Tom, on the other hand, didn't really have the same values and qualities as Jay Gatsby did, but on the other hand, he had the riches to cope with it. So in the end, Daisy chose Tom over Jay Gatsby. So according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, happiness is a state of well-being and contentment. So can we say that wealth has brought happiness in Jay Gatsby's life? In my opinion, we cannot, because Jay only utilizes his wealth to attract Daisy, his real source of happiness. So indeed, Gatsby, by organizing extravagant parties every week, doesn't do it for the enjoyment of the people. He has a very specific hope in his mind, and this hope is attracting Daisy to one of his parties. He does that because he doesn't really know where she is exactly. He only knows that she lives in this region of Staten Island. So his only hope is meeting Daisy by pure coincidence in one of his parties to revive that old flame that was tamed by Tom and by the distance with him being gone after the war. So at first, his wealth helped him attract Daisy and almost got them back together. Daisy's visit at Gatsby's house showed that Daisy was mesmerized and overly impressed by Gatsby's wealth and the extravagant decor that was displayed in his mansion. She is in fact so overwhelmed by all this luxury that she actually cries when he shows her his English shirts collection. Gatsby's plan to regain Daisy was going very, very well up until the end of the novel when Tom decided to take them all down a trip to New York and decided to directly confront Gatsby about his background and how he actually obtained his wealth. Well, when they got there, he actually exposes Gatsby and tells Daisy that he got his wealth through bootlegging, which was illegal at the time. So Daisy, saying that Gatsby never really denied it, slowly started going back to Tom's side. This scene is the beginning of the end for Gatsby's dream. The closing chapter of this sad story is the accidental murder of Myrtle by Daisy, who was driving the car while being distraught. Gatsby, in one last loving gesture towards Daisy, actually decides to take the blame for Daisy. And George, Myrtle's wife that was murdered, went crazy and decided to kill Gatsby as a form of revenge for his wife's death. So, in conclusion, we can say that, in all honesty, Gatsby's fate was decided way before he obtained his wealth, because his fate was actually decided the day that he was born, the son of farmers. So, even after accumulating all this wealth, he still wasn't satisfied until he gained back Daisy, but he really could not, because she was a materialistic woman who only sees values over personality. And thanks for listening to my presentation.